Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to set up a simple travel conduit actor. So you can define a path that actors can travel along, such as this tube, for example. We can send one of these boxes here up the tube. Or you can travel through this yourself with your character, for example. And so I'll show you how to set up the basic actor using a spline component to define the travel path. And we'll look at how to set up the wobbling animation while you're traveling as well. Okay, so I've got a new third-person template open here, and the first thing I'll do is make a new actor here. I'm going to call it B_travel conduit. And what I'm going to do is add a spline, and not a spline mesh, but rather this utility spline. And I'll add to that a box collision. I'm going to call this entry box 0, and I'll press Control D to make, select that, Control D to make another one here, entry box 1. And for each of these, actually, I'm going to add a static mesh, and I'll set this to a cube. And for the material here, I'm going to drop down here and hit the cogwheel, say show engine content, and I'm going to find field radius preview. And I'll use this handy material existing in the engine. It's just a little bit translucent and gives you something that I can visualize the box with a little better than just this wireframe outline. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here for the other entry box. We'll add a static mesh, set it to a cube, and set the material to field radius preview. And what I'm going to do here is I'll just grab the spline here, grab an end point, and drag it out a little bit. And even though we're going to shape this spline in the world, each specific instance of this travel conduit, you would make the spline whatever shape you want for the traveling. So I want these boxes to represent the entry point and exit point, or if it's a two-way conduit, you want it to be able to be traveled in both directions. Then we want to indicate each entry point. And not necessarily in the world or in your game, but just in the editor so we can see where we're placing this and place it in the right spot. So what I'm going to do is in the construction script here, I'm going to grab entry box 0, drag from that and say set world location. And we'll get the location from the spline. I'll drag in the spline here and say get location at time. And the time 0.0 is the very beginning of the spline. We want the world space coordinates, and we'll plug that in here to the location. And I'll want to do the same thing here again for the other entry box. So I'm going to grab all these, Control D to duplicate, and we'll plug this in here. And I'll just delete this entry box 0 reference and drag in the entry box 1 reference. And I'll change the time here from 0.0 to 1.0. So that's the other end of the spline. All right. So what I'll do here is just drag one of these into my world here and take a look. All right. And so that's pretty good here. This box doesn't exactly line up with the collision box, so we'll just make a quick change here. Select this one, and I think I just need to offset this by -50 in all of the axes. All right. Yeah, that looks right now. And so basically now what we can do is we can make this start point and end point wherever we want in our world. And let's say I'll add a point in the middle here. Maybe it goes up like this. I could add another point over here maybe, and maybe it goes over like that. And this end point, could be over here, for example. Okay. And so I've set up a basic travel path here. Now let's set up the logic to make an actor travel along that path. So I'll go back to my event graph in the travel conduit actor. And what I want to do first is grab entry box 0 here, right click, say add event on begin overlap. And so when we overlap entry box 0, the first thing we want to do is make sure that the conduit's not in use. So I'm going to make a new variable called is in use, question mark. And so we'll grab that and use a branch. And if it's not in use, then we will set it to be in use now. So we'll grab that again with a set. And if it's false here, we're setting to is in use to true. And then what I want to do is keep track of which actor has overlapped here. So we'll add another variable and call this the travel actor. And I'll set the variable type to actor. And then I'll just grab a set node here for that, and we'll drag off the other actor and plug that in here. Okay, and then if we're entering in box 0, we want to set our destination to be the other end at 1.0. So I'm going to make another variable here called destination position. And I'll set that to a float. And here we'll set this. And our destination position is going to be 1.0. And so that's opposed to if we enter the other box here. So what I'll do is grab the entry box 1, add event on overlap, and I'll just grab all of these nodes, Control D to duplicate, and we'll plug this in and plug in the other actor here to the travel actor. But this time the destination position will be 0.0 because we're coming back the other way. And of course, you could set up logic to prevent two-way travel. Maybe you only want to be able to go through the one direction, not come back. So that's up to you. But if it's a two-way conduit, then this supports traveling in each direction. Okay, and so I'll drag these down here. Maybe make a comment, overlap, overlap events. All right. The next thing we'll do here is on the event tick node. I'm going to grab the is in use variable, get a branch, and if it is in use, then we want to get the traveling actor. And what I'll do here is just right click this, say convert to a validated get. And so if it's not valid, it's just not going to do anything. And what we'll do is we'll say set actor location. And so we'll set the actor location based on our position in the spline. So we'll grab the spline here and say get location at time. And I'll plug in that location and I'll set it to world coordinate space. And for the time itself here, I'm going to drag back, say promote to variable and say current position. All right. And then we also want to set the rotation of the actor. So I'm going to grab the travel actor here again and say set actor rotation. And we'll plug this in here. And I want to split the pin here. I don't want to affect the X and the Y. I just want to affect the yaw. So I want the actor to be facing the correct direction for the way that they're traveling, just in the yaw dimension. So we'll leave X and Y the way that they are. I'll just grab and get actor rotation, split the pin, and plug the X and the Y in here. So we'll use the existing roll and pitch, but for the yaw, we'll grab the spline and current position, duplicate those, and this time from spline, I'll say get rotation at time. And I'll plug in the current position to the time here, get the world space coordinates, and we'll split the pin here, and I could get the return value for the yaw and plug it in here. And that would work fine, but I'm not going to plug it in directly because I want to make sure that we're going to face the correct way for which direction we're going through the conduit. So if we're going through the reverse way, we need to spin 180 from the actual rotation of the spline. So what I'll do here is say plus, and we'll add 180, and I'll add a pin here, and what I'm going to do is grab destination position, and multiply this. And I'm going to multiply this by minus 180. So what happens is, if destination position is 1, then this is going to be minus 180, and it's going to basically result in no change, because we're going to add 180 and then add minus 180, so that's no change. But if destination position is 0, then this will actually come back as a 0, which will leave the 180 change in place. And so that'll result in the right behavior for facing the right direction through the conduit. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is just grab these nodes and back them off here, and we'll highlight all these nodes, make a comment, and call it set actor location and rotation. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is I want to set this current position. I want to advance this along. So I'm going to grab a set node here, and we will set this using, I'm going to use an f_interp2 and plug the return value here. And so for the current, I'm going to grab current position. And then target, I'm going to grab destination position. So we're trying to move from our current position toward the destination position. Delta time, I'm going to get world delta seconds. And then interp speed, I'll just drag back here, say promote to variable, and we'll call this conduit speed. And if I say instance editable, we can change this very easily from the editor. So we'll just look here at our actor, and now over here under default options here, I have conduit speed, and I could set this to whatever I want for each instance. And so I'll set this as a default value to something like 0.3. All right, so I'll comment these nodes here and say advance along the spline. And now we just want to see if we've finished traveling. So I'm going to grab current position here, and I'm going to say nearly equal, and find out if it's nearly equal to the destination position. And the tolerance could be something like 0.01. So if we're basically at the end of the spline, then we'll use a branch here. And we'll say set is in use to false, and set travel actor to null. And I'll comment these and say travel is finished. So I'm pretty happy with that so far. I just need to make a couple of changes here. I'm going to go to the viewport, select my static meshes here, and I want to find the collision settings. We're going to change these to have no collision. Set that for both of these static meshes. And then also, if you don't want to see these in the game, once you're done debugging, you would set these to hidden in game. I'm going to leave mine visible for now so I can see where I need to walk into to trigger the tunnel, the conduit. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is go to my third-person character here and open up the third-person blueprint. And I need to select the mesh and find overlap in the details. And by default, it's not set to generate overlap events. And so we want to set that to true. And now we could give it a try here. Okay, so I'll just walk into this box. All right, and we're moving along our path that we defined, and very slowly landing at the end. Okay, so I'm just going to check it out here. I've done something wrong there. That's not how it's supposed to operate. I'll just go back to the conduit blueprint here, event graph. Oh, right. And so I've used f_interp2, which is giving a smooth feeling when tracking a position, but I don't really want it to be smooth. I want it to be constant. I'm going to delete that and get f_interp to constant. And we'll just plug everything back in here. All right, and we'll give it a try again here. Yeah, that's more like it. And let's try to go the other way. All right, perfect. And so one more thing I'm going to add here. Right now it's just using the falling animation because it's detecting that you're in the air and thinks you're falling. So that looks all right, but I'm going to add another animation for this that I've got called a wobbling animation. So I'm just going to drag that in here from my desktop. We'll select the SK mannequin skeleton. All right, and so to set up this animation, I'm going to go to the the characters folder and find under mannequins, animations, I'm going to open ABP_Manny. All right, and I'll find on the anim graph here under main states, from locomotion here, I'm going to drag off and say add a state called wobbling. And what I'll do is make a new variable here called is wobbling ? We'll open up this rule here and I'll grab is wobbling and we'll transition if we are, and then I'll make a rule to go back and we'll transition back if this is not, if it's false. All right. And then in the actual wobbling state here, we'll drag in the wobbling animation and plug it in. And so now all I need to do essentially is control this is wobbling Boolean to go in and out of the wobbling animation. So we'll go to the event graph here, and what I'll do is just add another pin to this sequence. And I'll grab let's see here, I need to find under references, the character. We'll drag this out, get character, cast to third person character, and we'll just drag this down here. And so what I want to do is in my third person character, we will set a variable here called is wobbling. So I'll compile that, go back to the animation blueprint, and we'll get is wobbling and set is wobbling based off of that. And so, I could directly access this is wobbling Boolean from the animation instance rather than going through the third person character and picking up the value of this second is wobbling variable. But I think this is just more clean. This is the way I want to do it. So pick up wobbling variable. All right. So now what I want to do is in the travel conduit blueprint, we will grab the other actor reference here. So travel actor. We'll just drag this, make some more space, grab travel actor, and say cast to third person character, and set is wobbling, and we'll set that to true. And then we just need to turn this off. We'll grab these, duplicate them up here, and turn it off when we're finished traveling. Set it to false. All right. Let's give that a whirl here and see what it looks like. Yeah, not bad. Oops. So it doesn't end here when we're finished. Let's check that out. Right. We set travel actor to null before and then we try to use travel actor directly after that. So I'll just control X, and we'll move this over here, and control V, and we'll clear the travel actor last. All right, compile and try again here. Whoa. All right, so that's basically it. And You know, in the beginning of the video here, I showed you my example. I'm using my tunnel geoscript to create that piece of tunnel, simple as that, and then my spline goes through the tunnel. And I've also put on the dash effects from my dash video, which I've just adjusted to have a bit longer lifetime and changed the color to white and a couple small changes like that. So that's pretty much it. That wraps it up for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.